Hi. Um, Tonight's story is titled The Solipsist. Uh, this is a guy who knows the story about Moon and Mary. He knows Moon and Mary. If you don't know the story of Moon and Mary, check out this channel, and it is one of those videos. It is yesterday's Eve video, and it is M&M, Moon and Mary. So that is the story of Moon and Mary. And in that story you can see that Moon, well, he is that is his nickname, but on the net he is called fastfabulist seastarpenguin. And well, there you can see, find out about Moon's little universe. It is well, it is a beautiful story, I think. But now there is this solipsist who uses Moon and Mary in his explanation of the universe. And Moon knows the solipsist is doing that. And Moon, well, he was in a state of bliss, because, well, he had this astrology and biology, and well, he had a certain view at the world, and he was very satisfied with it. And well, it was but then there was this solipsist who knew there were more questions, of course, because astrology is based on the solar system. You got the sun, the moon, the other planets, and that is. But the bigger questions behind, like how the universe started, and then of course the Big Bang theory, that is actually beyond the story of Moon. Well, some say Moon will not be worried about it, because during his life the explanation he has will do, and it will do like infinite. But of course there is certain people who think that is not enough. They want to have the answer to the origin of the universe, and then they have this theory of the Big Bang. Moon itself is not satisfied with that story, because then it was, well, it was like there was something bang, and then everything becomes bigger, but there is no circle in it. There is no circle in that story, and therefore, to Moon, it is difficult to understand this theory. But he doesn't need it, because that is on the origin of the universe, and it is enough to understand the solar system, and the part you're playing in that solar system. But now there is then the solipsist who who is going to explain the origin of the universe using the story of Moon and Mary. And Moon knows, and he knows the story. Well, the story is then um, well, Moon in the story is the one who was behind the birth of Christ. Well, Moon, of course, would say, how is that possible? Because I'm living today, and well, Christ, that was 2,000 years ago. So how could I possibly be behind that? That the solipsist is saying, no, you are a force, you are something that is beyond temporarily, and therefore you are a force of something that is infinite. You're expressing something bigger, something infinite, and therefore you're a force. And so it is possible to say that you are expressing, or you're the same kind of force then who was responsible for the birth of Christ. Well, okay, Moon can follow that story, but of course this is the version, this is the story of the solipsist, and this is not the story of Moon, who is just talking about biology and astrology, but he's not going that far that he's going to talk about astronomy actually, which then is based on the origin of the universe. That is the solipsist. Well, and Moon is furthermore the same force who is behind the Big Bang. So he is behind the birth of Christ, and he is behind the Big Bang. Moon is the one who created, who was then creating, who was behind the birth of Christ, and one can say the moon is also the reason there was life starting from out of the sea. And well, if you take it that way, then the solipsist is saying he is the moon, he is moon, and moon is the reason life started in the sea, and similar, then he explaining the birth of Christ because of moon. And well, you see, this is Moon already had difficulties, his story getting accepted, but then he has his fables, and so it doesn't really matter. But this is on the origin of the universe and explaining things like a scientist, and of course that is, one can follow the solipsist, but one can never prove. And if the solipsist is saying this is scientifical, well, then Moon will say you better don't tell it like a scientific story, because nobody will dig that. So, but he is then putting Moon behind the birth of Christ, behind the starting of life in the sea, and he is also saying that Moon is the one who started the Big Bang, and that is the fact Moon is there now will lead, has led to the birth of Christ, has led to the life, but also will lead in the future to the Big Bang. And of course, Moon, the last part, he had some difficulties to understand that one, because wow, the two other birth of Christ and life starting in the sea. But the Big Bang, he needed some more explanation from the solipsist. So the solipsist then said, well, life here on Earth will fade away. Will fade away like life will fade away if a ship is sinking. A ship is sinking to the bottom of the sea, and after a while, also with the of course the corpses, but also the material, everything will be fading away. Is the word he used. Well, it will all turn to dust, dusty sand, and nothing will stay. After a while, the whole ship and all the corpses inside and everything will be decaying, and in the end there is nothing left after a long time, of course, but that is a relative thing, and there will be nothing left of old shapes, old forms. The ones who will survive, if we're talking in terms of Darwin and his survival of the fittest, then Moon, his sea star, will probably then, the solipsists having the same theory, will probably survive the best, will survive longest. So the winner of the survival of the fittest theory of Darwin is the sea star. That will be the one who will survive longest, but he will also, and that is, one can see here goes the solipsist, even as the solipsist maybe a bigger picture, because the story of Moon, the fabulist, seastarpenguin fastfabulist, is the winner then. The sea star element will go on for a much longer time than all other species and all other life, because then when they're still there, the rest of it is all turned to dust. So, but the solipsist, he is going even further. He is talking about a time that even the sea stars will die out, and there is nothing left, and that is what he calls the fading away of Earth and life on Earth and the universe, and so partly the universe will fade away, and this will result then somewhere else in a big bird, and then everything will restart. So one could say Christ was born and he died, and like he died, the universe will also fade away, described then by the comparison with the ship sinking. So the universe will fade away, but at the same time, that will result then at a certain level of fading away into a big bang, and that can be compared with the birth of Christ again, and then the story will repeat. So the fading away is the dying, but the big bang is the birth of Christ, and the part that is inside of Mary, that is the part that is Moon playing right now. So the solipsist saying Moon now is causing the Big Bang in the future, and he is also the one who caused then Christ in the belly, and that is all happening now. Well, that is quite a story. Moon itself has a problem then if the universe was then partly fading away, then there will be left always the merry part. So one could say after life is even the sea stars were dying out, and there's nothing left but sandy dust on the floor of the ocean as a comparison. Then there is still something left, and that is well, the Big Bang suggests that there was nothing at the moment that the bang was taking place, but the solipsist suggests then the Big Bang was Christ, and all the time Mary was around, and then Mary was in the comparison the dust. So there was part of the universe was there was something, but here this part one is not sure, because now one is suggesting that even then everything was then returned to dust, that even that dust one could say one can compare, then the water is also burned away somehow, and then the dust gets there is no water anymore, and then it turns to the moon, like we can see on the moon there is also some dusty material, but there is no life, but just this dusty material, so the water is away, and then that dusty material can become burning, drier, like Martian planet, and then finally it can also start burning like the sun. So then the theory that everything was not only fading away to moon-like material, which then was the part of Mary which was always there. No, one could also say then it is all gonna burn away, and then this possibility then, when it is all burning away, then it needs another comparison, like someone then consuming fire, a consumer, one is consuming, one is eating, and this fire then is burning away the complete universe, even the dusty sand on the moon, the more fire-like dry sand on Mars, and finally everything is gonna be burned away, like someone who is digesting and eating everything. But then one could say he is eating so much that it is too much, and then it is all being thrown out, like he is big puke or something. He's puking, vomiting it all out, and that is then the Big Bang. And that is, well, that is the story of the solipsist. But this is quite funny, because the solipsist, and Moon is telling the solipsist, if you go and tell this story, and you will say this is the scientific explanation of the origin of the universe, then people might say you have mental disorder, That's why the story, of course, is called solipsist, because if he would tell this truth, which actually is beyond Moon and Mary, who are already with this fabulism in a twilight zone, one could say, but he is on Moon and Mary telling this story on the origin of the universe. Well, that could uh, could easily be turned like a mental disorder. So Moon is telling that to the solipsist, but the solipsist knows about solipsism and the reason why he is called the solipsist, and he says, well, it's just fantasy. Yeah, this is just a fantasy story based on your fables. So one could say things end up with the fabulist, but one could also say things gonna end up with the solipsist, who has a fantasy story based on Moon Mary. So you see, well, and that was actually the new person in this in the story. Moon knows this person. He calls in the solipsist, and he knows what he's doing. And well, he even he even likes the story. It's not that he has any certainty about the origin of the universe, but he likes the fantasy story of the solipsist. He likes more than actually the only the Big Bang Theory, which he was which was for him not very satisfying. This story is much more satisfying. At home with Mary, then they talk about this story they heard about the from the solipsist, and Moon is the other day. Moon was watching the Kimmel show on YouTube then, and well, there was recently there was this Kevin Costner on Kimmel, and he, well, I've read the comments section, and the comment section was saying, did he make up that story? Well, I saw him telling a story about Stephen Hawking, who was then visiting him at home, and his kids were there. And then he was telling they have Stephen Hawking served, well, something to drink, something to eat, but most of it, well, dropped on the floor, and it did not reach the belly. And that is what Moon was telling to Mary when they were at home, and the story of the solipsist reminds him of that Costner on Kimmel, and the Stephen Hawking story. Well, Mary then has her own link to that story, and it reminds her to some Dutch YouTube where there is that is a local thing, but there is a cafeteria, and there's some new folks, new generation people, guys. They hang out there, and they almost terrorize the cafeteria, man. And then there is this parody on it, and there are some kids from the French fries part of the of Holland, and they start vomiting in the at the cafeteria, man. So that was Mary's link to the story of the solipsist. But well, one could say then altogether then it started with a Big Bang, and that's the Big Bang theory. But now it seems like there is just the Big Puke theory left. Okay.